Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started with our housing update. I just want to introduce our presenters for today. So we have Janae here and Steve. They are playing very critical roles here at ScenicView Academy. So Janae is our housing coordinator and Steve is our transition coordinator. These are not positions we've had for the whole time ScenicView's been open. These are positions that as we've been looking at the process of moving students through the program and towards independence, that there's obviously a big housing need, and that used to be shared with other duties, and we've pulled that out to make its own position. And then also this transition process was kind of this shared responsibility among other staff, and we said, you know, let's carve it out and let's have someone that's just focusing on that process. As we've carved those things out and as they've been able to focus on those things, we've been learning a lot over the recent years and really excited about what they have to share with us all today, talking about kind of transition in general, housing in general, and then some specific updates. So with that, we'll turn the time over to Steve and Janae.
Well, hi everybody. Real quick, you'll notice there's a QR code here. This is going to be kind of an interactive thing that you can go through your cell phone and participate. With the model we have, there are 100 slots, so I guess the first 100 people who stop in can kind of participate. So there will be quizzes and polls and things like that at certain junctures of this, but throughout the time, if you have questions here, there's a little tab you can swipe over that says Q&A, and at the very end there will be a Q&A section. And so we probably won't have time to go through a whole lot of them, but we'll kind of pick out some that we think would be most general to and useful to everyone here. And then if your question doesn't get answered, you can always come find us. We're happy to go through those things. So I guess let's go ahead and give that to Janae.
All right. Okay, we'll give you a minute. Looks like most of you are you already logged in? No, okay, we'll give you a minute. This is an hour and a half, so buckle in, but we have so much information, and I've actually, despite what I've been saying to my coworkers, been really excited about this day for a couple of reasons. And one is, this is information that I've been hoping to get to parents for a good while, because as you understand the housing process and the transition process, you as a family becomes more empowered, and then your student becomes more empowered. So I'm so excited to have parents on board with this. And the second reason is, as Marty alluded to, we have some really, really exciting things coming up. Housing is a really, really difficult thing, whether you're neurotypical or neurodivergent. Housing is really tough, and there's some amazing things happening that a lot of people in ScenicView and outside of ScenicView have been a part of, and Steve and I are lucky enough to be the messengers of this really exciting message. Do you want to, I think, are we in now? This code will come up again whenever there's an opportunity to participate, so. All right, we're going to just start out by talking about our process here at ScenicView and how we've kind of developed over the years. Focus on how what our students do towards the end of their time here at ScenicView. And that's where Steve and I really get involved, but we've also kind of tried to pull the whole transition process down through the program so that we're connecting with you, families. Some of you we met at New Student Orientation. Like, we want to start with the beginning in mind, with the end in mind. We want to begin with the end in mind. and start talking right from the first day about what are our goals, where are we going to land after Scenic View. Oftentimes we don't know, but we want to connect with youth from at the very beginning of going through that process. So what have we got? Is it you? Oh, that's me. Okay, some of you know that we have empowerment statements here at Scenic View. As you walk around, you'll see them hanging up. These are just a few of them and how we interpret them and utilize them for thinking about the housing and transition process. So the first one is, I am in charge of my future. We hope that our students feel by the end of their time here at Scenic View that they're in the driver's seat. They're the ones that are empowered, calling shots in their lives, directing their life choices, and because of their time here at Scenic View, have their resources, the skills, the support that they need to do that. We hope that they continue to progress after Scenic View. We hope this puts you on a trajectory. We see our students for 2 or 3 years. We're part of their lives, and we know that parents have been the main part of their life, and that they will continue on, and we get this little window of time. We hope that it's a springboard, a trajectory, and that they continue to progress. And the other thought is housing, wherever you land, really is it's not the destination. There will be a lot of housing options along the way, but it really is a vehicle, and we've seen that with our students as they have had opportunities to be in a housing situation where they can really apply their skills of independence. It's a vehicle that really propels them forward. I always have a choice. We don't place students after Scenic View. We provide opportunities and work with you as parents and with the student on making a choice that's best for them. And everybody's story is different. Success looks different for every single one of our students. So we want them to be empowered in having that choice. And our role as Scenic View is to support that choice. We need each other. We talk a lot about being independent, but we're really interdependent, right? We rely on our students rely on us, they rely on you, we rely on you. And as they move out into the community, they're part of the community, and they'll need those friends and people out in the community, and those friends and people out in the community need them. And then the last is, I know my strengths and weaknesses, how my strengths and weaknesses affect my life. We're going to talk about this kind of throughout. It's a light show today. Super exciting. As all of our students have strengths, they all have weaknesses. They're all going to impact that transition process and housing decisions. And we want to help identify what those strengths are and how we can utilize them, and where those weaknesses are and how we can move in and support them. And so and the sound's going in and out too, as now we have Steve that works with our students on kind of assessing those strengths and weaknesses, and he's going to talk about that quite a bit here and there throughout. So I think that's it. Okay, Steve's going to quiz you now.
All right, are we ready? Let's see. Okay. Where's the button that makes the quiz go? There it goes. All right. So here's the big question here. What is the average cost of a one-bedroom apartment in Provo? And For those who, this screen is kind of way back there, we have $900, $1,000 a month. We have $1,100, $1,200, and $1,500. What's your best guess? And you can go on the phone, and it should be popping up on there. I'm really hoping that it is right now. So. Oh, good. It even shows how many people have responded there. All right. We've got people hopping in. That's good. All right. Well, we'll do about 10 more seconds here. 1,200, the daily double. Okay, so we ready? Okay, yeah. So it looks like most people put about 1,200. That's a pretty good estimate. What's the answer here? Okay, so we're about 1,100 right now. The real number, what was it? What, 1090, 1080? Yeah, something like 1090. So yeah, congratulations, but looking at that, that's a lot bigger than it was a few years ago, a lot than 2 years ago. All right, well, what's next? Okay, so let's talk about what the most expensive states are to rent an apartment. We don't want to kind of belabor this one too long, but let's do the top one. Number one is Hawaii at $1,651. Number two is DC at $1,607. 3, we've got California at $1,586, and then Maryland, $1,415, and New Jersey, $1,368 a month. And so, so let's talk about the least expensive states. So we have North Dakota at $821. That sounds really good right now. Iowa, $895. We have Arkansas at $901. And Kentucky, $903, and South Dakota at $944. And so these low numbers here, that's about where Utah was about 2 years ago. That's kind of crazy to me. But yeah, let's move on. So keep in your mind, where do you think Utah ranks on this one? Any thoughts of where we rank? 25, 15, 50? Okay. All right, those are good. Yeah, we're number 20, so yeah, we're not too shabby, but it's still kind of expensive. Yeah, $1,090 per month. Okay. Yeah, this is for a one-bedroom apartment, right? Did we put that in there? I don't know if we did. Okay, good. All right. So here's another quiz here for you. Hop on in if you haven't already. So parents, where do you envision your student to be living after Scenic View? There's no right or wrong answer with this one. We're just kind of curious. And so in case you can't read it in the back, this one says, at home with family, in a residential program, renting an apartment with roommates, renting a one-bedroom apartment without roommates, or something else. And so and this is one you may not have even thought about yet, so we'll give you a little bit of time before we move on. And we're thinking, okay, let's do about 10 or 15 more seconds, and then we'll kind of see what everyone thinks. Okay, all right, that sounds good. Yeah, looks like overwhelmingly we're hoping for some kind of an apartment with or without roommates. I'm kind of wondering what the something else is, and so if you all have any ideas, you can come to us after. We can think of what something else could be. All right, what do we have next? Oh yeah, let's see what the right answer was. Oh, it's all of them. Good job. Okay. I don't have a prize or anything. Students, do we have students in here, or did they all kind of leave? Okay, if you're students, go ahead and we'll give you 10 seconds if you can put your answer in real fast. Let's see how you differ from your parents. Okay, we're going to blow through this one here because we get to talk to you every day. Okay, we all good with this one? Okay, let's see where the students are hoping. Yeah, it's about the same. So I'm surprised about the roommates one. That's kind of cool. All right. So this is for everybody. Where would you want to have that take place? Just in the Provo-Orem area, elsewhere in Utah, or outside? So we'll give you a few seconds on this one too. Okay, let's do another 10 seconds and then we'll hopefully get everybody in. All right, ready or not, let's go see what we've got here. Okay, so a lot of you are from the area, and we've got just shy of 30% outside of Utah. That's kind of cool. Okay, and so what's the right answer for this one? Yay, we all win. Okay, so I want to talk about this. This is our current model for our transition and housing program. And it used to not look a lot like this. I think the initial planning stages, where things would just, common sense would be, common sense doesn't always kind of pan out perfectly, but the way it was we would have this whole skills phase that we would go through at the beginning, and then, 1 or 2 terms before graduation, it would be, oh, it's transition time, let's get everyone going, and then we would scramble to see if we can get them into an off-campus apartment if that's what they wanted, and then transition ended up being like a speed bump rather than an on-ramp. And so what you can kind of see here is we're taking that transition that process, and we're narrowing it down just about to intake when students are here. And that way we can have transition be more of an on-ramp. And I'll talk about this later, but what kinds of things do you need for finding an apartment online? Or not, did I say online? I mean in the community. Excuse me, I'm talking in front of a bunch of people today, I guess. So what kinds of things do you need? I think the obvious answers that we would all come up with is you need a place. You need to get your deposit ready. You need to be able to pay rent. You need to be able to get all of the paperwork and everything managed, and that's what usually comes to mind. And that's what Janae, our housing specialist, really helps support with. But there's another side to that as well, and that's what I cover as well. And I cover the skills side of that. And so before we're going off and finding an apartment, we want to make sure that we're able to have transportation to the grocery store, that we're able to cook, that we're able to renew our paperwork. We're able to do all of these things which can kind of blindside you. And so we have so many talented specialists and teachers and professionals here that can help along that progress. And I'm happy and blessed to kind of help coordinate a lot of that and do a lot of assessments here. And so what we'll start down here at the bottom is during intake, they'll be living in the RB. That's the residential building. And that's just this building right on the side. It's kind of an on-campus place it's got a lot of support. It's got mentor support just right there. There's food support here, and we'll start there, and we'll basically be focusing on skills, just in a very focused, deliberate manner. And then after the first few months of here, after they leave that prep phase, they'll go into what we call the skills phase, where they're still picking up new skills, but we want to have them apply those skills. And so we have some apartments here on campus that are they're incredibly nice. We love them, and they're just a good opportunity to kind of get a feel for what it's like to live in an apartment off campus, or it's on campus, but it's just a feel for that. They're still going through us for paying bills and things, and so it's not quite as independent, but it's a step in that direction. It's a little bit farther up the ramp. And then farther up here, we have transition housing that we would love to talk about. We have some incredible opportunities coming up with with a place called Bridgeway that will go on a little bit later that's intended to be a transition kind of housing. It's not open yet, and we can get it. I think Janae can go into that a little bit more. We don't want to go into it too much now, but it's intended to be someplace farther off campus that's still a bridge between what we have on campus and that as well. And then finally, we're hoping to find community housing where the students are with real landlords going through and doing everything on their own. And so that's what you'll notice here through each of these steps. There are going to be lots of moves, lots of moving. And so one of the things we're hoping to kind of, set those expectations is when your students come here and they're bringing all of their stuff and all of their things, maybe it's a good idea to be a little judicious in what you choose to bring, keeping in mind that there will be lots of moves throughout the way. Oh yeah, lots of moves. Yeah. Well, let's give this to Janae here.
Okay, I'm going to break down that process just a little bit more so that you know what we're doing here and where you come into play. So this is a potential kind of progress chart for a student at ScenicView. It's based on 9 months, which is 3 years. That doesn't mean everybody stays here for 3 years. That's just about as long as anybody stays here. And you can see the different phases. They're not like hard transitions, like you don't, like I'm moving from the skills phase into the transition phase. Those are rather, that transition takes some time, but there's the potential housing moves. Not everybody is gonna look like that. There may be steps skipped. Some people might not move out into the community here for various reasons. They might go home, they might go somewhere else, they might move out of state. This transition section, Steve's gonna talk more about later, but this is where he comes in and is really kind of assessing where those skills are. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Did we talk about recommendations? Okay, you'll do that, right? Okay. Here, family education and contact. That's happening right now. This is new, and this part I'm really excited about. We want to be able to connect with you right from the very beginning, and do some training, which we're going to do today on the whole housing process. And this one here, graduation housing plan meeting. Some of you have already done that. That's where we sit down. You, your student, your service coordinator, me and Steve, and kind of analyze how's graduation looking, how close are we, what's the housing plan? Are we gonna move out of state, are we gonna stay in state, are we planning on having roommates, not having roommates? We'll kind of work together as a team to look at all those variables, and that's not like whatever we decide there is going to happen, but it's going to connect us and put us on the same page so that we can move forward with guiding your student in a direction. You can't maybe see it very well here, but at the very bottom is a final transition meeting. Right at graduation time, we'll sit down with you again, those same people, plus Carrie, who's up here, you're going to see a little bit later. Carrie is our alumni person. She's also my predecessor in this role. She did a lot. She did all of this housing stuff before I did, and was able to get community type housing for a lot of our students. And then it was like, oh, now they're alumni, and what are we going to do with that? So she's created a really robust alumni program. She's going to talk a little bit about later too. And so that's when you'll really be introduced to that and what all the options are and services as an alum. Classes, along the way. Principles of apartment living is something that Steve and I teach together. You're getting like a really fast version of Principles of Apartment Living today, and we have a few students in here who've already had it, so they'll be like, yeah, I know. Shoot, they can cover you if you got questions. We've got one-on-ones. Sometimes Steve meets with students one-on-one to assess those skills. Sometimes I meet with students one-on-one to really focus on the housing stuff. We're actually in the same office, so a lot of that happens together. And then Steve teaches a class called Transition to the Community. As students are looking for housing, they take that class. It's in the evenings, and it's out in the community, different places. The class is in a different place every week. So this is where we're really assessing all of the skills, are the transportation skills in place in particular, and kind of some of that final assessing. This last one is off-campus check-ins. If your student moves out into the community, has an apartment out there, we really like that to happen a good bit before graduation. Not at graduation, but maybe a good term or two even before graduation, because skills and systems and emotions and everything fall apart with big changes, right? And so we'd love for your student to still be here so that we can kind of go through that process and be there for some of those crashes that are kind of inevitable, and pick up the pieces, and by the time they graduate, they're like a smooth sailing part. And so that's largely Steve. He goes out and visits students in their apartments and continues to assess skills and put skills back together after the move. That last one is just some things that need to happen, like applying for vouchers and housing, which we're going to talk about a little bit more. A little later, yeah, go ahead. Okay, so welcome to the movement. I don't know if you know, but there is a big movement. It's kind of underground. I didn't know it was going on until I did this, but it's really exciting. There are so many agencies, organizations, individuals, funding sources that are so interested in creating a space in the community for all types of people, all neurodiversities, and there's a lot of laws being passed federally and locally that's driving this, like, let's move away from some of our old systems where I don't know if you know what percentage of adults on the spectrum are living with a caregiver. Does anybody want to guess? It's like 85%. Some say even up to 95%. So your students have this opportunity to start obliterating some of those statistics. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, these next couple of slides I actually stole from a couple of people. And this one is from Dr. Eric Carter, who is an inclusion and transition researcher out of Vanderbilt, now Baylor. And I love this model because it kind of, first of all, it kind of shows us a history of where we've been just thinking about inclusion, whether it's in our school systems, in housing, in communities, in the workplace. We started out with exclusion, where we didn't know there were people with disabilities, people with neurodiversities. We were oblivious. And then we kind of moved into a place of segregation with, that maybe looks like, maybe there's a different school that you can attend that's not in the mainstream, or maybe you can live over here, but not really included. Then we moved to a place of integration where it's like, oh yeah, come on in, you can have your own classroom in the school, or you can have you can be in the workforce, but be over here. And then we moved to inclusion, where we're like, hey, let's welcome everybody in. Let's be flexible with all types of people in all kinds of situations. And that's not even the place where we want to land. Full belonging is the goal, where I really like how he shows this, because it looks like all of these colored dots came in, and now everybody's colored. Like everybody is impacted, and everybody's together, and diversity is really how systems grow, right? So your students might need to be out there, but the community needs them just as much. All right. For a small price, yes. Yeah, actually, sadly for me, this is being recorded, so yes. This one comes from the Autism Housing Network and Neuro-Inclusive Housing Solutions. So it's similar to the other slide, but this is how we've just seen the progress in housing. So this may not represent you or your student, but prior to 1980, pretty much the only option for people with disabilities who weren't living at home was state schools or institutional care, right? And then we passed this, the Medicaid waiver, which basically means you can waive your right to institutional care and take that funding with you. And so then we started to see scattered site housing. That looks like group homes, right? More recently, we've seen the growth of consumer-controlled service delivery for long-term supports. And this is where people are saying, we want to have our housing separate from whatever support we have, because that gives us the independence to move around. We don't have to make our decisions about where we live based on the supports that we have. We want the supports to be right there. Does that make sense? And so now we're seeing this neuro-inclusive housing emerge. And we're seeing it right here in Provo. I know we keep building up. We're going to talk about these cool things. We are. It's at the end. So this might not be your story exactly, but this is what's driving what's going on. We're moving towards. There's this movement that we're interested in full belonging. We want everybody to feel like they have a place in the world. That's this market research study that they've been working on. That's what we all want, right? Go ahead. Oh, Slido. Okay. So this is a question for parents. Oh, staff, you can answer this too if you're here. We'll give you a minute for this because it's a thinking question. In a word or two, what are some of the gifts that your student has and will contribute to your family, the ScenicView community, and society? This is a word cloud, so as you put these in there, I think they're gonna pop up. Can you all read that? Can you see it in the back? Yeah. Wow. That is not supposed to make me emotional, but it kind of does. Some of those words that are bigger, I think, are the ones that are popping up that have come up the most. Compassion, creativity, humor, kindness, understanding, determination. How much does compassion come up here? I've seen it pop up so many times. Is that what our communities need? Our communities need your students. We need this diversity. Okay, do you want to skip to the next? So, how will housing options facilitate those contributions? Something to think about. If you have a place in the world, what can you contribute to the world? Okay, so what are the barriers? What is preventing us from getting out there in the world? This is really good. So if you're watching this pop up, what's the number one thing you would say? Money. Yeah. It's not the only thing. Skills, a lot of these things are based on skills. Some of it's mindset. Some of it's just the infrastructure, government, landlords, time. All right, do you want to? Okay, time for some comic relief. I don't know if you can see it. Affordable housing. Actually, it says affordable housing in Dublin. I don't know what's going on in Dublin, but apparently we're not the only ones with this problem, but that's the one that I found. Okay, no one believes in me. Okay, I hope in a minute you'll believe in it. Okay, so if you are here, if you are looking for housing solutions, if you are looking for a better life for yourself, for your student, for your child, you're in it. You're in the movement, and it's really exciting. There's some really amazing things happening. So how are we going to be part of the solution? And it's not just ScenicView. It's you, and it's communities all around the world really are focusing on this right now. So, go ahead. Now we're going to talk about some of our opportunities that I keep teasing about. Okay, we're going to talk about the housing authority and housing vouchers, which some of you here already know a lot about. Some of you here know a little bit about, and some of you have never even heard anything about this. I hope that wherever you are in this process, that we never lose sight of how amazing this is. The Housing Authority, this is through federal funding, through HUD, Housing and Urban Development. these are the two housing authorities that we work with here in Utah County. Provo City Housing serves Provo City. Housing Authority of Utah County serves the rest of the county. And we have been so fortunate to partner with both of them. And if we did not have this partnership, we would not be a transition program. These opportunities are what makes us who we are, that gives our students the ability to kind of, it is this bridge between a life of dependence and a life of independence. So let's explain a little bit how that works. Okay, Steve is going to present this tool that we work with. A lot of your students will be familiar with this, and we want parents to be really familiar with this too. Oh, F11? It's all rubbed off. Perfect. Okay.
Thanks. Okay. And so this is a budget tool that Janae and I put together, and we give a copy of this to every one of the students in our classes. And so when we're giving them the tools to find a place on their own, part of what we do is we expect them to show through their budget tool that they are able to afford it, and if they're not, we have them pick up those tools to be able to show us how they would be able to afford it. And so let's kind of walk through a typical thing here. What do we have? There's a check box and up there, and okay. Yeah, okay. So let's kind of begin here with the typical situation that a ScenicView student would have if they were approaching that transition phase where they're actively looking for an apartment. Ideally, they'll either have a full-time job, or let's put in an internship that kind of goes through us. The internships, they get $8.50 an hour and they work about 20 hours, is that right? Okay. And you can see up here by the base rent, that's their rent here at ScenicView, and that's definitely subsidized through a lot of very generous means. But let's kind of look at what we have. I mean, we've got $8.50 an hour. Their monthly net here, they have about $622 to kind of work with. And that's not counting SSI or any other forms of income. You can look through really quick at some typical expenses here. Their utilities are about, $50 here, and they can be more or less in a one-bedroom apartment. Phone bill, grocery, things like that, depending, and the groceries will depend, on where they are. By the time they're in the transition phase, they're less dependent on on-campus food, and they're more into providing for themselves with that. But here's some typical things here that we'll see. And so if we scroll down to the bottom here, oh, are we bigger? You can make it bigger or whatever you like, whatever you need. If you scroll down to the bottom, you can kind of see where that balance is here. And they have enough to meet their needs with just that here. And their percentage of their rent is about 37% here. However, if we were to go up and they were to make that move off campus, who remembers what the average price per month for a one-bedroom apartment would be here? Yeah, $1,100. So let's put in $1,090 to give them a little bit of a benefit there. Yeah, that's okay. So looking at all of these things, let's scroll down and see where we are here. Yeah, that looks really bad here. So rent is 160% of your income, give or take. Yeah, is that affordable? Is that something we can do? So what we go through in class with students was we say, what can we go through and adjust? Hopefully we can work with our job department. Let's put in a an off-campus job, let's put in $15 an hour. That's a pretty good wage for, and it's kind of a typical wage for what a lot of students will go out to go do. All right, so it's a little better. You're getting $10.98, but yeah, we're still kind of in trouble here. There are a few things we can do. I mean, while students are on campus, you can go through and adjust their hours, but with programming, that's kind of a juggle, and it's stress, and it leads to a lot of other considerations. And so, what are we going to do? This looks pretty bleak. 90%, even with that, 90% of your income going to rent alone minus this. Let's turn this back to Janae to see if she can help save us here.
You like how I set that up? Steve can give the bad news and I can give the good news. If we can go back. I also let you do the hard stuff. That's coming later. That's not, now I moved away so that he could figure out what to do. Yeah, what happened? Oh, we've got to escape.
Oh, that's right. We got to escape from the budget. So, down here. Gotcha.
Escape the budget. Nobody wants a budget. Okay. Oh, time for another joke. Just in time. We can dream about it, right? Well, okay, let's make it reality. So this is, let's say this is you. There you are, that's you. And you're interested in this apartment here. But the landlord's asking an average amount, $1,100 a month. But you are only making $1,000 a month. That's more than 100% of your income. That's not going to work. Enter the housing authority. That's actually Provo City Housing Authority. They get their funding federally. The housing authority they kind of refer to themselves as a quasi-government. I mean, it's a private institution, but it's government funded. And our housing authorities here are awesome. It does not feel government-y at all. They know our students, they love them, they bend over backwards. So, oh, you're getting ahead of me. This is, if you qualify for a housing voucher, which we'll get to in a minute, the vouchers that we use here are called Section 8 housing vouchers, which denotes disability. If you have a housing voucher, then you enter into this partnership with the housing authority. And it's like this three-way partnership with there's a contract between you and your landlord, between the landlord and the housing authority, and you and the housing authority. And your portion of the rent is 30% of whatever your income is. So for $1,000 income, you pay $300. That's a lot more doable, right? And the housing authority's portion is, do the math, $800. So as your rent goes up and down, as your income goes up and down, hopefully just up, that would be good, then your portion of the rent also goes up, right? And there's some stipulations, there's limits and all of that, but that's basically how a housing voucher works. So if we want to pull the budget back up, we have this nifty button at the top. We'll just apply a housing voucher, it's that simple. And you can see that your base rent is still $1,090, that's what your landlord's getting, but your portion of the rent, based on your income, just dropped down to $360. So let's see how that impacted the overall budget. Scroll. 'Scroll. 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 We'll just arrow down. There's always a problem. And that concludes this presentation. Just kidding. Yeah. That's better. That feels a lot better, right? And a housing voucher can stay with you as long as you need it. There's really only 3 ways to lose a housing voucher. One would be making too much money, which is about $3,700 a year, maybe 38. Is it 38,000 a year? If you have that problem, that's a good problem to have. And a lot of our alumni have achieved that problem, where they no longer qualify for a housing voucher because they're flying independent. So that's one way. The other way you can lose a housing voucher is by no longer living in an apartment. Right? Like if you moved home, or I guess that would be a home. Hopefully not on the street. Then you might lose a housing voucher. The third way would be breaking the rules of the program, which are basically not paying your portion of the rent, breaking laws, being evicted, things that our students don't do. The really awesome other thing about housing vouchers is that they're portable. After having a voucher here in Utah County with whichever housing authority it is, you can port that voucher to any other housing authority in the country. So you can take it with you to Montana or New Mexico or Cedar City. So as long as the housing authority there is funded and able to absorb housing vouchers at the time, your voucher can become portable. So is that a good solution? I don't remember. Let's see. Just a review. Oh, back to Steve. So now Steve is going to talk to us about the skills part. And oh, hang on a second, I'm going to set it up right. How do you qualify? That may be what you're wondering. How do you qualify for a voucher? By having a disability, yes, would do it. But the housing authority doesn't try to determine disability. That's not their role. If you have SSI, you've already been through that process, and the housing authority recognizes that as, yep, that's a qualifying disability. You automatically qualify for a housing voucher as well. Not all of our students have SSI, most don't actually. So there is another way, and it's amazing. And so now Steve's going to talk about that.
All right, so how many of you have gone through the SSI process? It's really easy and breezy, right? No, it's a pain, really. They have you go and prove in every way they can possibly conceive of that there is a disability that exists. They'll ask for paperwork, and when you feel like you've submitted everything, they'll say, go and do a physical, go and have these doctor's appointments, and have them talk to us. And by the end of the time you've got everything done, then they deny you, and then you appeal and go through a lot of that again, and eventually they do. For a lot of people, you'll finally go through that process. It's really kind of hectic, and it's a process we recommend that students go through. But I just wanted to kind of reiterate that SSI, for the majority of people, is the way that you qualify for a Section 8 housing voucher. And so the other thing I wanted to impress upon everyone is that because ScenicView is such a wonderful place. I have no words for how great it is. We have relationships with these housing authorities, and because of those relationships that we have had, what they say is, they say if you will put your students through a recommendations process, you can write us a letter and then we will just assume that they qualify based on our recommendation. And so that bypasses that entire process for the purpose of qualifying for that voucher. And I can't understate how, or I can't overstate how great of a thing this is. It's wonderful. It makes me so happy. I can't even right now. And so this will open up that door for anyone who wants to go through that process. And so I want to talk about the recommendations process that we have here. And so like I was saying before, there is that physical, let's find an apartment part of that transition into the community process. There's the building, there's the paperwork, there's the funding, there's all of this. But on the other side, there's that skills side that I was talking about earlier. And so what students, as part of that recommendations process here, students will actually work largely with me through our transition one-on-one classes, where I'll sit down one-on-one with the students. And I'm sure a lot of you have gone through this before, but there's an assessment that we put together that goes through in a lot of detail the skills that we feel will be necessary to not only just kind of subsist and survive in an independent living section, but to thrive. And the idea is to look for any of those blind spots that you never know you didn't know. How am I supposed to renew a voucher paperwork after the year is over and we need to go through that process? Just things along those lines. And so they'll sit down with me and I'll put them through this, this self-assessment where they go step by step and they kind of go over where they feel they are on that. And because it's a self-assessment, there are limitations to that. And so during another large part of our time is we'll kind of sit down conversationally in our one-on-one meetings, as well as a little bit in class. And we'll kind of have, casual conversations asking, about, where are your cooking skills? What is your favorite thing to cook? And then if they give their answer, I can ask a more specific question. Well, what kinds of things do you like to cook? You like to cook Cajun food? Oh, that's amazing. What kind of spices do you typically use in Cajun food? And when they say, you say, what's your method of preparing a roux? And you just keep going more specifically until I get a mushy kind of answer, and then I can kind of tell, yeah, this is kind of where you are here. And then I can take this information and I can forward it to the specialists here that they work with, their teachers, and then I say, here's where this student is, here's where I think they are, here's where some potential blind spots are in some of these areas. And also, if one of your students is extremely intelligent, one of the things that you've probably noticed is there's something called masking, where they'll go in and they'll be able to talk about a subject in detail. They can be absolutely convincing that they can do this. And I think part of what I do is I look for that masking and find out, you understand in principle what this is. Let's see in practice where you are. And that way, it's not, intended to be judgmental, but it's intended to, let's see where we can prepare your student so that they're not surprised by anything that they'll encounter off campus, but instead that they'll end up being confident. I know this, I can do this. And so that's just part of that assessment. I kind of want to get into a little bit, what was the next slide? Okay, about the properties. But we can do that. I can give that to you for that if you like.
Okay, how are you doing? We're over an hour in, and now we're really going to dive into these properties that we've had the opportunity to. In fact, do you want to pull up the map that we have been able to develop over the years? Yes. So we're gonna fly around Google Earth here for a second. You can see Scenic View up there in the corner. And can we see all of them? Oh, hit the property overview, maybe? No. Oh, yeah, do that. I don't know. Try something. Okay, so Bridgeway is up there. That's still Orem. That's our one property in Orem that we're going to talk about at the very end. Ooh, we're going to it. Isn't that cool? Okay. Yeah, let's go to Geneva Fourplex. This one's over on the other side of the freeway in Provo. We're going to introduce all of these to you in a little bit more detail. Liberty Center Apartments is just back on the other side of the freeway, right off of Center Street. That's Center Street where the little pin is in Provo. Cascade Gardens is just up the road a little bit, right there. 85 North, which is so exciting, just down the road. Oh, it doesn't look so good in that, but it looks way better today. And that's all. Okay. I haven't, most of these were underway when I took this role. And so I want to, is Diana in here? Diana ran away. Okay. Hey, there she is, not paying attention. Steve, do you want to go back to the, so Diana was integral in this very first partnership that we had with Provo Housing, a place called Cascade Gardens. So she'll tell us about that.
Okay. So yes, just like Janae said, I was lucky enough to be involved in the first project we did with Provo Housing. This was in 2015, which seems like a long time ago and not very long ago at all. But in this property, there are 42 apartments, and it is 55 plus, and then there's 5 of our students, so there's 5 apartments for Scenic View students. I think only one of the originals is still there. Is that right, Carrie? Okay, so we've had students kind of rotate through Cascade Gardens a little bit. This was just a really fun project to be a part of because it was our first chance to kind of get out there. And ever since then, I've just been really excited for the transition process. And so Steve and Janae make me happy every day. And not only that, my office is right across the hall from them, so sometimes I even get to hear what's happening, and it makes me happy every day. So yeah, Cascade Gardens was really great, and we're really looking forward to some of these other properties that we're about to introduce. Anything else you wanted me to say? Okay, awesome.
Okay. The next 3, my predecessor, Carrie, had a hand in, and that's all I'm going to say, because Carrie will tell you more.
So one of the things that, Janae has touched on is this idea of community. And Scenic View, we can't explain it other than Scenic View has magic. That when you get enough people working toward the success of our students, things just kind of magically happen. And so this was one of them. It's a 4-plex in Provo that the families of one of our students inherited through a passing of a relative, and they lived in Seattle and they had no interest in taking care of it or maintaining it or anything, and they just wanted to get rid of it. And so they were asking us who could buy it or who would, and we were like, oh, I wish we could get that. And so we went to the Provo Housing Authority and kind of did a a three-way connection with this family, that the family sold the property to Provo Housing. The Provo Housing Authority remodeled all the units, and we put students in there. So we recommend students, and they can go. And so these are 4 units, 2 bedrooms each. And so students can have a roommate situation that helps them make housing affordable for them. And they also get that, I have a roommate, because like all of us, some of our students would really want to live alone, and others just like, I don't want to live alone, I'll be lonely. So it gave us some options to do some roommate situations. But it's, yeah. They get shared vouchers, so they get half and half. That makes sense. They both get half a voucher to make up the rent for the full apartment. And then the next one is Liberty Center Apartments. This is down on Center Street. This is not owned by Provo Housing. This is a private, company that owns this building. And how they built this with what's called Section 42 subsidizing, which basically they get tax breaks for creating affordable housing for some. So they have some apartments that are below market value for people with low income or disabilities, and then the other apartments are all market value and just sold, to the public. So, and it's a great location at Center Street downtown. They have washers and dryers in the unit, and again, magic. When this building started going up, I just happened to run into one of the folks that do the leasing office, and just said, how many disability apartments can I sign up for? And they said, as many as you want. And so we just put student after student after student on their list. And so whenever they had an opening for a low-income unit, they would call us. We could put a student over there. And so currently we have 15 students that live in this complex. So they have friendship and support around them, but they're also in the community living amongst other tenants. It's not like a group home or anything weird like that. It's just, they're just living in the community, but they have community there with them and friends close by. And then this is 85 North, which we get to move into next week, which has been a long time coming, but this is another property owned by the Provo Housing Authority that uses vouchers. And there are 77 one-bedroom apartments. The first 3 floors were designed for autism, so we got to be involved in the designing process. So it has been a lot of fun to do extra soundproofing and no fluorescent lighting, and the water heater and the furnace are outside their apartment, so that if maintenance needs to come take a look at it, they don't have to bother the tenant at all. The maintenance can just go make the change, and the tenant won't even know that it's happened. Each of the 3 floors for autism are different. The doors are different colors, so if you get off the elevator on the wrong floor accidentally, you go, oh, that's not my floor. And we have lots of amenities for them to promote community. So we have a game room and a library and things like and there's an office for ScenicView. So there'll be a ScenicView staff member on site, so that if any of the tenants need help or support, they can come and talk to somebody. So this is kind of the previous 2 properties were kind of a proof of concept, and this is a big leap of progress that our previous students have kind of laid the groundwork of showing that they can be good tenants, and they're predictable and they're reliable and they pay their rent and they're not noisy, and they're, all these great things that have kept Provo Housing working with us, because they really enjoy working with our students. And like we said, name any government office that cares about people. And Provo Housing does. They love our students, they know who they are, they know what their challenges are, and they make things possible for them. So we're moving in next week. The top so the first 3 floors are for autism, the top 4 floors are for elderly tenants, and those tend to be a good combo because the elderly tenants also don't party and don't like to make noise, and they're 2 populations that seem to blend well because, you know, if you put a lot of our times, if our students go into student housing, we have universities around here, those are hyper-social situations, and it's just overwhelming, you know, even though that's their peer group and their age group, the social demands are just too high. But this is more of their speed, and they make good neighbors, and the 2 populations really blend well together. So we're thrilled about this. And you have can I show you the map? So this building was designed to, like I said, minimize sensory overstimulation for our autistic folk and to maximize community engagement. Unlike, so a lot of the time, how governments and city planners deal with lower income populations is to push them to the margins and to push them outside of the city. But 85 North is right downtown. It's 85 North and 100 East in Provo. And I don't know if we can zoom this in a little bit, but it's within walking distance of all of the things that they're going to need. So like it's within walking distance of the Provo Housing Authority, the Provo Recreation Center, the grocery store, the SSI office, you know, Dragon's Keep, that's a big one. The UVX bus system that's free, the UTA bus system, which is, you know, they charge for it, but still it gives them lots and lots of transportation options, lots of walking options since a lot of our folks don't drive. And it's just like anything that they could want. We're just so thrilled about the location. But the idea is that they are living in the community, they're doing their own thing, they have access to all the things that they need, and they have some extra support of having a staff member there. So as the person that works with the alumni, that's what I do. I've learned that a lot of our folks, after they've been through our program, they have the skills, they do a good job until something unexpected happens. And if they come to something that's unexpected, they don't know what to do, and they kind of freeze up sometimes. And so that's one of the benefits of having the office there is a lot of those are really easy to handle. A lot of the questions or the things I get from alumni are, I got this thing in the mail and I can't tell if it's a scam. And they'll send me a picture of it and I clarify for them. Or, you know, I'm in this situation, I'm not sure how to handle it, and we walk them through the steps. And so this is, because we have a classroom and a library, we're hoping that 85 North is going to be kind of a hub for all of our alumni. So yes, there are students that will live there, but also we're going to have alumni activities and things to help all of the alumni students kind of stay in touch with one another and have some social opportunities and learn some new skills. But that way, right, up until now, we've had to, if we ever did alumni activities or anything like that, people had to come all the way out to ScenicView, which is not super convenient, especially when you don't have a car or you rely on public transportation. So this, again, location-wise, is ideal not just for our students, but for all of our alumni as well. That this will be kind of become a hub for the alumni of social and community interaction. Did I cover everything? Okay. Oh, so yeah, 33 units for autism. Oh, I forgot to mention we have 30. We also have a sensory room in the apartment building, which is thrilling.
Awesome. Okay. Oh, time for a joke, in case you're getting a little tired. Okay. What do you call a fear of intricate buildings? Go ahead. Okay, we just have a few more minutes, and we want to talk about like the big thing we want to talk about, which is it's the newest thing. This is called the Bridgeway on 4th. This came about about a year ago. The other housing authority, the Housing Authority of Utah County, reached out to us and said, there is this senior community in Orem that is closing as a residential care kind of place, and I want to purchase it, but I want to provide housing for people on the autism spectrum, and we'd really love to partner with you. And this was magical because we were at a place where we had these great properties. We had 85 North ahead, but we had all these students graduating. We didn't have a lot of options, and we were kind of bottlenecking here. And we were actually searching for some properties of our own to purchase to see if we could solve that bottleneck problem. And then magic again falls out of the sky. Hey, do you want to partner with us on this? And we're like, let me think about it for a second. Yes. So this property is, we're going to take a tour of, we're not in person. We're going to take a little aerial tour in a second, but also comes with vouchers. There's 21 studio apartments in these, in this facility right here. On-site laundry. The apartments they don't currently have kitchens in them. So the Housing Authority is refurbishing the building and redoing every room, and there are going to be nice, beautiful new kitchenettes in every room. And that project we're anticipating will be done by the end of this year, beginning of next year. We anticipate that a large portion, maybe majority, maybe a strong majority of our students will have the opportunity to move to Bridgeway sometime during their skills and in moving into their transition time here at ScenicView. It's a bridge. It's like this great opportunity to be like, I've been working on my skills here, my independence here. I'm going to move this out into the community, but it's not very far. It's only like 2.5 miles from ScenicView. There will be support there. It's with a landlord that's not us. They need to, it's not on campus, so they'll be relying on their transportation skills, but it's not far, so they can, so it's not quite as scary. And it's an awesome opportunity. So we have a little video that Diana put together for us, so you can kind of see where it's at. This is also kind of a combination senior with the seniors, because as you'll see as we fly around, there's a little kind of cul-de-sac in here that will have senior development. It's same property, also owned by the Housing Authority. Yeah, that was me. Kind of make you to feel like we're going to go inside there at the end, but no, because it's under construction. So that is coming soon, and that is going to be so transformative for our students. So we didn't actually leave, we want to leave a few minutes at the end for questions, but maybe we'll just say, we'll just be milling around here if you have questions. But I just want to close with this thought that when I took over this role, Carrie mentioned the magic that happens here, and I was like, that's cool. But I can't tell you how many times I would go to Carrie and say, I have no idea what we're going to do. This isn't going to work out. We've got this student graduating. We have this, this fell through and this fell through. And consistently she would say, just wait for the magic. There's magic here. And I was like, nope, this is not going to happen. And invariably, I'd go back to her office and say, you won't believe this. I got this phone call. Or something came up on this waiting list. That it's kind of unbelievable how much just kind of falls into place here. And now I tell that to people. I'm like, yeah, it's not working out, but it always works out. And that magic is because of our students, it's because of their families, it's because of this place. It's the Nordas were parents like you and me who had a need, and they created really a magical place. And this is one of many places where we see that magic happen on a regular basis. So it wouldn't happen if it weren't for this movement and you being part of it and your students in these courageous steps that you're taking. So, and we just feel so lucky that we work here and that we get to work with your students. So thank you for your courage, your commitment, and your patience a lot of the time too. And that's about, unless there's something, okay. I think you did a really good job sitting for 90 minutes, and you deserve a treat. And so I think we have lots of that. And then if you have any questions, let us know.